The silence of God at the moment of rebellion. If God is omniscient, he already knew about Lucifer's betrayal. But then why did he allow it? Lucifer's rebellion was not a sudden act. What happened in heaven was not just an insurrection, but a plan that unfolded amid divine silence. Why did God, the creator of all, not intervene at the very moment when the first thought of pride sprouted in Lucifer's heart? This is one of the greatest mysteries of theology. The Bible gives us fragments, but what if we look beyond what is written? The celestial scene was one of indescribable glory, where angelic choirs sang hymns of praise, and the light of God's presence illuminated all the heavenly hosts. Lucifer, the most beautiful and wise of the angels, held a unique position. His light shone like no other, and he was called the bearer of light. However, something changed. Lucifer began to desire something that did not belong to him, the throne of the Most High. His desire grew in secret, like an invisible seed becoming a tree rooted in pride. But God, who sees all, remained silent. Was this an intentional omission or part of a greater plan? If this revelation surprised you, comment below what you think happened at that moment. Your comment might appear in the next part, the first thought of rebellion. If God knew about Lucifer's growing pride, why didn't he stop him before it was too late? In the heavenly realm, where time does not exist as we know it, something began to change. Lucifer, the one who walked among the fiery rubies and led the choirs of worship, began to feel a desire that should never have arisen. He wanted to be worshipped. He saw himself reflected in the eyes of the other angels, and there he noticed something he had never questioned before. Why should he serve if he could rule? This thought, subtle at first, became an obsession. But here lies the great question. God, the Almighty, saw all of this. Every intention, every doubt, every emotion growing in Lucifer's heart. And yet he did not stop him. This divine silence raises a controversial question. Was God testing the angels? Or was free will such an absolute principle that even the Creator would not interfere? The other angels began to notice the change. Lucifer no longer seemed the same. His speeches became more persuasive, his words more enigmatic. He spoke of freedom, of a celestial order where hierarchies would not exist, where everyone would be their own God. But up until that moment, the throne remained silent. God did not intervene. And Lucifer interpreted this silence as a sign. Maybe, just maybe, the Almighty was not as unshakable as they said. That was when he made his decision. If this mystery intrigues you, like this video and share it, so more people can debate this controversial moment in celestial history. Lucifer's secret plan. What if Lucifer had never been discovered? Would heaven have been overtaken? Was God's throne ever at risk? Now that Lucifer had made his decision, he knew he couldn't act recklessly. A direct attack against the Almighty would be impossible. If God was truly omnipotent, an open affront would result in his instant destruction. So he decided to be strategic. His plan began with whispers. He approached the angels with captivating speeches. He spoke of freedom, of a new order where every celestial being could choose their own destiny. Slowly, those who listened to him began to question what once seemed absolute. If God is just, why must we obey without question? If we are so powerful, why don't we have a voice? These doubts spread like a silent wildfire. Angels who once worshipped without hesitation began to wonder, what if there was another way? But God remained silent. Was this silence a sign of indifference? Or was it permission for each celestial being to choose their own path? The fact is, Lucifer saw it as an opportunity. If God did nothing, then perhaps he could do nothing. That's when Lucifer made his boldest move. He didn't just want followers. He wanted allies. Could Lucifer's plan have worked? What do you think? Comment below and join the debate. The first conspiracy in heaven. What if I told you that Lucifer's rebellion was much greater than we ever imagined? That he wasn't alone, but that an army was already forming right before the throne of God? Lucifer wasn't just another angel. He was one of the highest-ranking cherubim, a being of light, a celestial ruler. His voice carried weight. His presence commanded respect, and when he spoke, multitudes listened. So when he began planting doubt in the hearts of the angels, he knew exactly what he was doing. His rhetoric was irresistible. He wasn't openly asking them to rebel. He was simply suggesting, if God created us with free will, why can't we use it? The words spread. First one angel, then 10. 100,000s heaven, once vibrating in perfect harmony, now had an invisible division. Some felt the weight of these questions. Others remained faithful to the Almighty, rejecting Lucifer's ideas. But there were those who hesitated. Michael, one of the most powerful celestial warriors, watched everything. He sensed that something was wrong. He saw the exchanged glances, the whispered conversations, but so far nothing had been done. God remained silent. And in that silence, Lucifer found his opportunity. He gathered the most influential angels, those with authority, those who led choirs, those who commanded celestial armies. And there, in secret, he spoke the boldest words ever uttered in heaven. The throne can be taken. The impact was immediate. Some stepped back, horrified. Others listened intently, but there were those who smiled. The plan was in motion. If this revelation shocked you, subscribe to the channel, so you don't miss the next part of this unbelievable narrative, the great deception, Lucifer's promise. What if I told you that many angels didn't want to betray God, but were deceived? The conspiracy was growing. Lucifer, in his cunning, knew he couldn't convince everyone with words of rebellion, so he changed his strategy. He promised something irresistible: power. Lucifer began spreading a dangerous promise among the more hesitant angels. God loves us, but he keeps us limited. He doesn't tell us everything. He hides secrets. If we take the throne, we will discover the whole truth. And that struck a chord with many. The desire to know more, to understand what lay beyond what was permitted, to see what God saw. But what Lucifer didn't tell them was the cost of that knowledge. With each passing day, his influence grew. More and more angels drew near, listening to his words and feeling tempted. They didn't see themselves as rebels yet, only as seekers of truth. And while all of this was happening, God remained silent. The faithful angels watched with concern. Michael was restless. He could sense that something big was about to happen, something that would change heaven forever. And then, at the exact moment, God finally broke his silence. If this story has you hooked, like the video now so this truth reaches more people. When God broke the silence, what if God always knew everything but waited until the last moment to act? Heaven was different now. What was once a realm of pure harmony was now filled with uncertainty. Voices whispered, glances shifted. Some angels no longer knew whom to trust, and it was in this atmosphere that the unexpected happened. God spoke, and when God speaks, the entire universe listens. His voice thundered through the heavens, an irresistible force that pierced through every celestial being, exposing hidden thoughts and intentions. Lucifer, son of the morning, what have you done? Time seemed to stop. The question echoed through every corner of heaven. The angels held their breath. Lucifer felt a shiver. For a moment, his confidence wavered, but then he realized God had not destroyed him. God had questioned him, and that meant something. There was no turning back now. Not after everything he had done. And so he did the unthinkable. He answered, I have done only what every free being should do. I have chosen my own path. And with that response, he sealed his fate. But what happened next was something no one could have foreseen. What do you think happened next? Share your theory before watching the next part, the confrontation between Michael and Lucifer. What if I told you that the war in heaven didn't start with swords, but with words? The silence after Lucifer's response was overwhelming. The angels watched, waiting to see what would happen next. God did not reply immediately. His silence now felt different. It was not a silence of uncertainty, but of judgment. And then a new voice echoed through the heavens. Who is like God? It was Michael. The archangel, one of the most powerful celestial warriors, stepped forward. His presence was like a storm about to be unleashed. His eyes burned with the fire of justice. You have exalted yourself, Lucifer, and sown doubt in the hearts of the angels. But what have you gained from this? The glory you seek is not yours by right. Lucifer smiled. He was not afraid. I have only opened the eyes of those who wish to see. There is no crime in that. Or is God afraid that we might see something he is hiding? The murmurs among the angels grew louder. Many were divided. And in that instant it became clear there was no turning back. Heaven was no longer united, and Michael knew it was time to act. He drew his flaming sword. The first battle in the history of the universe was about to begin. If this story has captivated you so far, share it with someone who also needs to know this truth. The first war in heaven. What if I told you that the battle between Lucifer and Michael was much more than just a fight? It was a clash of forces that shook the very structure of the universe. The moment before the war was one of absolute silence, a silence heavy with tension, where angels on both sides waited for nothing more than a single sign to act. And then it happened. Michael raised his flaming sword and charged. The glow of the blade sliced through the heavens, and the first battle of the universe began. The clash of forces was overwhelming. Lightning and thunder tore through the skies. Angels fell like burning stars. What was once a realm of pure harmony was now a battlefield. Lucifer did not retreat. His power was astonishing. He was not just a charismatic leader. He was a warrior. His followers fought with fury, determined to claim what had been promised to them. But there was a problem. Lucifer underestimated Michael. The archangel was not fighting alone. Angelic armies stood by his side. And more than that, he fought for something greater. While Lucifer's followers sought power, Michael and his angels fought for order, for justice, for the balance of heaven. And that's when everything started to change. Lucifer's advance was halted. His armies began to fall back. What once seemed like an inevitable victory started to turn into a crushing defeat. And then, the moment came. The moment that would define Lucifer's fate forever. Do you think Lucifer truly believed he could win? Share your opinion in the comments below. The fall of Lucifer. What if I told you that Lucifer wasn't just defeated, but torn from heaven with a fury never seen before? The war raged on. Angels fell amidst explosions of light and energy. The heavens, once perfect, now trembled with the fury of battle. Lucifer felt control slipping away. His army was retreating. His allies were falling one by one. He, the great bearer of light, now saw his own darkness growing around him, and then came the final blow. Michael, with the full force of the heavenly armies, charged at Lucifer. His sword shone like 1,000 suns, and with a single strike, he unleashed a force so overwhelming that Lucifer was thrown back. It was at that moment that God intervened. Judgment was immediate. You who wish to be like me shall now fall forever. The firmament opened. A vortex of pure divine energy formed, pulling Lucifer and his followers into its grasp. They struggled to resist, but there was no escape. They fell like lightning, like stars plummeting from eternity. The impact of their fall shook all of creation, and where they landed, something new and terrifying began to take shape. If this revelation shook you, subscribe to the channel now so you don't miss the next part of this incredible story, the birth of hell. What if I told you that hell was not created by God, but was born from Lucifer's very fall? When Lucifer and his followers were cast out of heaven, they fell into an absolute void, a formless abyss without light, without hope. But something happened. The energy of their presence, their fury, their pain, and their hatred began to merge with this abyss. They did not just fall, they transformed the place where they landed. Chaos took shape. What was once an empty void became a realm, a domain molded by pride and rebellion, a place where God's love was no longer present. The first throne was raised, not a throne of glory but of damnation, and seated upon it, the fallen angel now had a new name, Satan, the great enemy, the adversary, the prince of a new kingdom that was never meant to exist. Hell was not an immediate punishment, it was a consequence, a reflection of what Lucifer had become. And so the war that began in heaven did not end with the fall, it only changed battlegrounds. If this story made you think, leave a comment below. Do you believe this war is still going on? Let's discuss!